Welcome back to another movie review, this one for Until Dawn. This is spoiler free. If you want to see our spoiler filled review, that'll be coming out tomorrow for members as well as on our podcast, Make Every Death Count. But this, just a quick overview, our thoughts, spoiler free. I went into this with a lot of hype.
Same.
And that's somebody, like, I've played the game.
I haven't.
See, that's fun.
I've watched the games.
Yeah.
But not in a long time. And yeah, I never played them myself.
Yeah, so I played the original a few times. It's one of my favorites. It's still my favorite from Supermassive, and I just played the remaster a couple months ago now. So a big fan, but I was not one of those that react to this movie in a way where I saw the trailer and was like, that's not my Until Dawn, because at the end of the day, that Until Dawn is basically a movie.
Right.
Like, the game is basically a movie. So for them to do a movie that's exactly the same as what we already have, and I just like, what's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why do shot for shot?
Yeah, it would be like Disney and their live action movies, right? It just, I don't like that. So I'm glad they went the original route. And you know, the thing is about Until Dawn, it's about the butterfly effect. You know, every choice you make makes a difference. It could save people, it could kill people. You know, and that's what it's about. But how do you represent that in a movie?
Right.
When you do it via time loop is what they decided to do for the movie. It follows a group of friends trapped in a time loop where mysterious foes are chasing and killing them in gruesome ways, must survive until dawn to escape it.
Until Dawn?
Yeah. So, first of all, the cast, I thought they all did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
There's something very... It's got like 90s teen vibe a little bit.
I was like, are these guys college students? Because most of them do not look college age, which again, back to it feels like a 90s movie.
Right. Yeah.
30-year-olds playing teenagers.
Yeah, it's got kind of that vibe, which is maybe why I found myself enjoying it and buying into it. There's also something, you know, Until Dawn, and really all Supermassive games, but especially Until Dawn, there's this emphasis on friendship. And because of the way the game is, and it's following after a friend's death, and they're getting back at the cabin, and you have to make choices and stick together to keep each other alive. And they took that premise and really applied it to the movie, and I enjoyed that. Yeah. And yeah, in terms of the cast, I really don't have any complaints. There was nobody that was like the odd man out who couldn't hold their own. I really like Ella Rubin as Clover. I think she is, and you know, this is not a slasher by any means, but in terms of like final girl, your main lead protagonist, I thought she carried the movie really well.
Absolutely. Yeah. She has that familiarity.
She does.
I looked at her. I'm like, what do I know you from?
Yeah.
And I don't know her, but she's going to be in.
Oh, I don't know.
Something this year. Is it?
She is going to be in.
Is it Final Destination?
Well, she was in Anora.
Yeah, she was. She's in Fear Street.
Oh,
upcoming Fear Street.
In Prom Queen?
Yes, she will be.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
But other than that, yeah, Anora. But otherwise, nothing that I'm like, I know you from there. So,
Until Dawn. Overall, like, this is directed by David F. Sandberg, who I love. I've always liked him since he first made Lights Out, and I discovered him back then. And following his career, I enjoyed pretty much everything he's ever made. There's a couple things to me that stood out that didn't feel as David Sandberg as I know. Now, the jump scares overall in the film, there's a lot. If you go read reviews, every time you read a negative review, that seems what it is. Like, the tropes. It's just a lot of horror tropes, which to me is kind of the point.
Right.
You're every time they're redoing this and they're following this time loop, you're being introduced to yet another horror thing, a creature, killer, whatever, you know. So that's kind of the point, I think, in that regard. Some of the jump scares are really good. There's a couple that stood out where, like, yeah, there he is. There's my David, you know, and there's a couple of those moments. But there also are some that are very run of the mill, very predictable.
Jump scare in 3, 2, 1. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just not well earned. There's a couple of those. But overall, I think this stands out in terms of your cheap horror films, right? Like these are way more well developed and well produced than most would be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely one of the better game adaptation films.
Yeah. Yeah. But because it's such a loose adaptation, that's probably why.
Exactly.
But yeah, on the same note, in terms of jump scares, the practical effects in this are by AFX. They're very well done.
Yes.
There's actually less than I thought there was going to be. And I'm sure that's a budget restraints you're seeing.
Yeah.
But when they do let it show, it's really cool.
Yeah. Even the VFX were great.
Yeah. They're pretty minimal.
Right.
Luckily, that was something that David Sandberg put an emphasis on, is that if we're going to do this, like I want to do it everything as in camera and practically as we can, because that's just something he's always wanted to do.
Yep.
And you'll see a lot of that.
Yes.
A lot of that's really well done. Now, what I found myself thinking, where Until Dawn wasn't working as well as I was hoping it would, because it's a time loop movie, you find yourself comparing it to Groundhog's Day and things like that. But why it's different is because it's not usually in a time loop movie, everything is the same no matter what. It's you that's changing and creating a different day every time.
Right.
But the world around them is changing. New creatures are being introduced.
The environment is changing.
Yeah, it's like the ways they're dying, no matter the decisions they make, are different every time. So you don't allow them to develop as characters, although they do, kinda. They get there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to see them develop as characters and learn as long. They don't have this character arc as a result of the time loop. That's what we're used to in time loop movies, and that's not there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. You get little arcs, but there's no, main point that you're missing that creates your character, completes your character's arc. There's not that.
Really, the only one you're following, you're pushing with is Clover, and it's Clover who is, they're trying to find her sister.
Right.
And her figuring that out, whether trying to find closure or whatever, like that's kind of your overall arc that's happening. But
right.
Yeah, so I find myself like being a lot less invested than I normally would be in these time loop movies.
Yeah, that's fair.
As a result. But so the whole movie, I was watching it, I was like, I'm at a 6. This is like a solid 6 out of 10. It's nothing too crazy. The scares are fun. It's a good time, but I wouldn't know if I'd find myself coming back to it. And then at the end, they sucked me back in, and I'd go up like a whole point just from the last 20 minutes. They do some really cool things in there that bring this all together. And I tell you, without spoiling anything, they made the way they promoted this, which I think is the right choice. They promoted it as if this has nothing to do with the game. Completely different, separate worlds. It's its own thing.
Right. And as you're going along, you'll see little Easter eggs here and there.
Yeah. From
the games, which very much appreciated.
Yeah, for sure. Even like Dr. Hill is promoted as a character who's not really involved. He's right. A little cameo from Dr. Hill in there. He is way more involved than I ever thought he was going to be. And what the ending ends up leading up to is super cool. And I think the tip of the hat to the gaming fans.
Yep.
It's like, nice, sweet, thank you. So I like literally that brought me, I was back in when they did that at the end. So overall, a pretty fun experience. I think it is a horror film worth checking out this year. It's going to stand out amongst the masses.
Absolutely. I was sitting there throughout parts of the movie. I'm like, man, I am really digging this. Is it one I'm going to rewatch? Probably not.
Yeah.
But it's definitely up there for me with the films that came out this year.
Yeah, a fun movie to see in theaters for sure.
Yeah, I was literally sitting there thinking, I think this a full 7 for me, 7 out of 10.
I think the one thing that was throwing me off, and I said this in the car on the way home, is there is some comedy in here, and sometimes it feels really out of place to me. Like people talked about that with Hard Eyes, whereas random comedy being thrown in mid chase scenes, things like
In
that.
the horror rom-com.
Right, which that movie, like, totally fine for
Cheese.
me. Yeah, like
It's
totally
cheese.
fine to throw in comedy like that. I that's what that movie is. Until Dawn, when it happens a couple times in there, it feels like some serious tonal inconsistencies. And there's one in particular, which it's kind of during a funny scene, but not really. I don't.
So in that scenario, it's a kind of a funny scene. We were laughing. The whole theater was laughing. We were having a good time.
Yeah.
And then it got serious.
Right.
And then funny moment back to serious. Like,
yeah, it just there's a couple moments like that throw me off. I'm like, what are we doing?
That scenario, that's the only time I thought that. I was thinking back. I'm like, you know what? For me, it worked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
There's just a couple like slick lines here and there that I'm just like, oh, that was kind of off.
Yeah, there's another one that I'm remembering now. Yeah.
There's also a couple of dialogue exchanges that feel a little unnatural to me. But I was thinking about it, even in the moment watching it, I'm like, this feels like the game. There's one actually between Clover and Max. I don't want, again, not spoiling anything here, but when they're together out in the woods, when that scene is happening, their exchange, I thought was like really, it was kind of weird. It was kind of like melodrama, high school dialogue. And then I was like, oh, that's literally the game. I don't know if that's intentional. I don't know if that's the intentional vibes they're going for, but I was like, that is exactly what the game does. That is exactly how the game feels.
I felt that way too during that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see that happening. And I think if you're not a fan of the game, those are going to throw you off even more. So yeah. That's that. But overall, I think Until Dawn, I think it's worth checking out. I think there's a lot to talk about with it, which is why we're going to do a spoiler-filled review. But a good time. And I even think if you're a fan of the games and you're thrown off by it not being the same, I think you'll end up appreciating it more than you expect.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, it's definitely up there for movies that released this year for me.
Yeah. And there are some it's a perfect date night movie, right? There are some good scares in there that will catch people.
Your significant others will be grabbing onto you during this movie quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it's good to support, support David Sandberg. Yes, he's hot in Hollywood right now, but he was a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Started as a YouTuber, support him and support good video game adaptations to films.
Yeah.
Support good ones. And that's what you got right here.
I also really want to see a sequel.
Yes.
Because of where we end up. So I really want to see a sequel. So if we could make sure it gets enough money to do so, that would be great.
I'm sure it's on track. I'll be checking out box office numbers on Monday or Tuesday and see.
Yeah. It's pretty low budget too.
Yes.
But hey, that's our thoughts on Until Dawn. If you've seen it, let us know yours in the comments below. If you haven't seen it, I think it's worth checking out. But that's going to wrap this video. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. And of course, as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.